Number 4. Patient 3. I want to be home, rattles through my mind constantly. The thudding furiosity of my pulse pounds my brain as I walk forward, holding 4, my impatience increasing. Before I know it, I find myself in front of patient 124, his face staring blankly up at the ceiling. A feeling of boredom comes from him. Have you seen James? I question 124. He says nothing in return. I let out a deep sigh and move forward. Patient 132, have you seen James? I ask him with a level of annoyance coming through. I don't expect him to say anything as his face is down facing the concrete, his ginormous bald spot reflecting my torchlight back at me like a satellite. I don't have time to waste around and move to holding 6 where patient 3 is free from his holding. My foot steps over the door to holding 6, a new feeling of comfort and confidence finding its way through to me. I beam my light over to the holding. Patient 3 is not in the holding, the feeling of comfort disappearing. I move the torchlight, shining it past the holding. 3 is standing in the middle of the hallway, looking down at the floor. He is between me, the holding cell door, and the door that will lead me to getting the hell out of this shithole. He has ginger curly hair, short and clean, unlike most other patients. It's almost the same colour as the jumpsuit that he wears. The jumpsuit is pristine, like he's just put it on and came into the warehouse today. He has a demeanour which is recognisable, but his look is unique. Welcome back, James, 3 says. I'm not James. He looks up from the floor and gazes at me with his bright green eyes. He tilts his head.
Are you sure?
I sigh, beginning to feel a bubble of anger moving up at me. Look. I push forward, the gun pointing towards patient 3. Get back in your cell. I don't have time to talk. I step forward once more, closing the gap between me and patient 3. Patient 3 stands his ground, and a smile slightly broadening.
Ah, Matt, I didn't recognise you.
How do you know me? My brain flicking to try and find answers to who this man is. A feeling of recognition, but yet I've never seen him before.
Don't you recognise me?
He raises his skinny arm up by his waist, expecting his gesture to trigger something from me. No. I shuffle forward, pushing the gun for him to start moving back. He reaches his hands up, and he begins to turn to the right and backwards, still facing me.
Patient 25 changed you, Matt. He got to James as well. I saw it in his eyes as he walked past through the hallway. It felt like that demon staring back at me.
The smile 3 once had, now removed. He stares out behind me like there is something there.
I see that in your eyes, Matt. Him.
His face now turning into fear, he cowers backwards once more into his cell. How do you know patient 25? I question, but I don't expect him to answer. He looks like his mind is now elsewhere, developing something more pressing to him.
He got James 2 years ago. You were there. I was there. And he got to me too. To me and James the most. That's what happens when you ward aliens.
Aliens? He ignores me as other thoughts are still trickling around him, developing like a marinating stew. His eyes widening more as he backs over the holding threshold.
It's you, Matt. You're the escape.
He steps on the threshold of the holding. I reach out towards the prison bars. My index and middle finger of my left hand that holds the torchlight pushing the gate in front of my body. My gun still pointing towards patient 3 in my right.
I can't let you lock me in here.
You are a patient and you are staying in this prison for good. Before I can close the gate, patient 3 grabs the edge of the door with his hands. He tries to push against me. I switch to using my left shoulder, the torchlight now flicking left and right on the floor as I push against his strength. Patient 3 moves his head now close to mine.
I am Dennis. You have to let me out.
My eyes are starting to open as I begin to listen more to patient 3. Then a picture of patient 25 pulsing into my mind. The pulsing fear it generates courses through me with his vibrating voice.
Don't listen to him.
I begin pushing against 3, a strength I never knew I had. I'm propelled forward as the gate comes crashing into the holding, sending an echoing slam throughout the silent warehouse. Patient 3 barely missed the same fate I had when facing James. I can't stop Patient 3, pushing myself back from the gate. Patient 3 is now crawling back to the gate, scampering over in a last-ditch attempt. He grabs onto my ankle. The grasp sends a sharp, searing pain through me. The pain sends me doubling over. I fall to one knee, letting my guard down. Patient 3 continues his claims.
Patient 25 is an alien. It can take control of living beings.
I don't listen to him, a boundary of pain and suffering. A seething anger creates a reverberation that frightens even myself. Let me go! This command causes Patient 3 to cower in fear. He lets go of my ankle.
You are taken by it. You must not let it take a hold. I can help you.
He speaks with a quickening breath and continues.
I've seen what happens.
I begin to lift myself up, cringing with anger that slowly subsides. However, when I put my weight onto the ankle that has just been grabbed, it gives away, forcing me to grasp onto the bars and pull myself forward. Patient 3 follows me as I slowly hobble to the exit across the bars. Patient 3 continues speaking.
In 2035, aliens begin revealing themselves, breaking out from their human shells and killing whoever remains. You, Matt, release them from their holdings. When I time travelled to 2035, I read in a government document that a staff member in Warehouse 22 is a catalyst to the beginning of the end of humanity. Now I know that must be you.
You are not a time traveller, you are an insane person, and I need to stop listening to you and get on with my mission. In desperation, Patient 3 grabs a hold of my arm. Before he can carry on his pleas, a blinding light fills up my view and a deafening crack through the air sends me away from the bars. The smell of sweet plastic fills my nostrils. I hit the floor, my head cracking onto the hard concrete. A loud ringing fills my ears, and the white warm light fills my eyes as I lose consciousness. I return back from the white light into the pitch black of the holding, the ringing replaced with the mortal cries of Patient 3. I reach for the back of my head and feel liquid which has matted my hair. I reach my hand back to the ground and begin pushing myself up, every push a sharp pain crawling through me. I lift myself up the wall and reach once more to the back of my head. There is no feeling of dampness or matting. The sharp pain that I felt with every push and movement also subsiding. It's now replaced with a thumping headache. I get to my feet. The pain of my ankle also no more, but the headache is now turning into a heartbeat, and the face of Patient 25 remaining in my mind's view again. He utters these terrifying words, my mind cowering on the floor like Patient 3.
I see you now.
Vibration pushing my body forward. It has grappled hold of me. I move to the bars. I feel faint, and the bars force me to stay upwards, but the protruding face of Patient 25 searing my brain like a branding. I look down to see Patient 3. He has his left hand over his right hand, blood pooling underneath his arms. Grab the map and the keys, then click the lock into place. Stop the bleeding with this, Patient 3. My voice now emotionless. A long, slow breath rolls through me, trying to ease my rapid heartbeat. I drop the mat into the cell. Patient 3 scurries towards the map and puts it onto his hand and winces in pain.
Matt would have never shot me. He would know that I am Dennis.
Tears streaming from his contorted face as he looks up towards me, his face I saw before now filled with fear and pain. I begin to move before he finishes. My body is not listening to his cries, my mind is still taking it in. With one last hope, I speak out towards Patient 3. How can I tell? The last bit of humanity calls out as I move methodically towards the exit of Holding 6. Patient 3 begins shouting to me.
I left my job as a warden in Warehouse 22 to become a detective in 2027.
How can he know all this? I carry on slowly.
The introduction was taken by Dave. You came over to sit beside me after you received your packet without a gun license, and that's why you knocked yourself out shooting at me.
He cries out but stops from carrying on to wince in pain. I hear his scream of agony. I reach the end of the door and he says one final thing.
You did a terrible northern accent.
Dennis? I stop in my tracks. It's Dennis, I think to myself. I turn around to face him, holding the torchlight shining on Dennis, his face looking up towards me. I recognize his green eyes now. I step towards him, but something stops me from moving forwards, like a force pushing against the thought. Something reverberates from me.
I won't let you stop him, patient 3.
Dennis looks over to me with a fear covering his hope.
It's too late.
I push with every fibre of my being back towards Dennis, but the force overcomes me, and I'm forced to fly through the next door. Number 5. Hyldýpi. The force pushing me from my feet directly into the solid steel door leading on to the next holding. The loud thud of my back hitting metal sends a low shudder through my bones, but what would send me into agony does nothing more but sends me dropping back to the ground. My feet touch the ground of the hallway, then patient 25 voice vibrates through me yet again.
You must finish your mission.
But I am already walking back to Dennis, avoiding his demands. Dennis! I hear no response. I slowly crawl, exhausted, back to holding 6, but I hit an invisible wall that stops me in my tracks. I look around and try to walk around the barrier, but then I realize that there is no invisible barrier, but an internal barrier stopping my limbs from moving. I can't feel my right hand. I begin to think and look towards the hand now, opening and clenching into a fist on its own.
It's time for a little nap.
My heart rushing in panic as the right hand now clenches into a fist and punches me in the head, sending a ringing through me, and once again plunging me into darkness. The darkness is erased. Something I have not seen for what seems like years. The light blinds me and takes me a few seconds just for me to make out the large, startling, fluorescent light that hangs over me. There is more space than the corridor I was in a minute ago. I now sit in a square room, my jaw feeling tight and fixed shut. I sit up to notice the steel bars of a patient's cell trapping me in. A million questions float around my mind. A buzzing noise rings through my questions, the sound of someone entering this holding. I begin to hear 3 sets of feet marching their way towards the prison bars. The first person coming to my view is wearing a security officer uniform, all black jacket, trousers, and leather black boots. As they turn towards the bar, they have no facial features or hair, just a bold oval circle remains. Let's call him 1. Next to him is a man wearing a white scientist robe, like one of the researchers in the warehouse, grasping a clipboard with pens clipped to his breast pocket. He stops walking and looks towards me. I can now see the staring eyes of patient 25. 25 grins towards me, his patchy beard and hair sprouting from his wrinkled and decrepit face. The blood he once had on his fingers now gone. The final man is yet again faceless and wearing the security uniform the same as the first man. Let's call him 2. Patient 25 speaks.
New patient.
The vibration is no more. He's normal. He looks down towards his clipboard to check details.
Patient 25, Matt Trubinsky.
Almost on cue, both the security guards move towards the bars that border between me and them. Patient 25 continues to speak.
Reasons for imprisonment. Failed to do my commands.
The heavy door clunks to free itself from its holdings. 1 pulls open the bars to break down the border between me and them. 2 slips through while 1 holds the door open. 2 begins to walk towards me with speed. His menacing walk sends a deep layer of fear, just like James striding towards me and holding 3. I begin to scream out but hear no sound coming from me. Patient 25 follows behind 2. He is still looking down his clipboard. He carries a neutral expression. 1 pulls open the cell bars and walks after him. 2 reaches me and grapples both my shoulders, holding them in a firm grip.
Now, patient 25, why haven't you been doing my commands?
As 1 moves up to my front and 25 wanders through to the centre, not looking up from his clipboard. I begin to feel my jaw, which was once tight and fixed shut, begin to ease and slacken. I hear the sound of my own breath. It's loud, and I'm trying to gasp for air. 25 walks to the centre of the room and looks up to me. He tilts his head like a dishevelled old puppy. Where? Who? How? I look for sentences to match how I feel in this situation, but nothing comes to me except, what the fuck is going? My mouth tightens sharply and locks up once again. Patient 25 loses temper, his brows clenching tight around his eyes.
Answer my question.
2 lets go of one of my shoulders and punches me across the face, a pain piercing through me. My eyes begin to blur and I begin to fall over to the side, but 2 holds me up. My head slack and drooped down to the floor, blood oozing from my mouth. I see the white robe of patient 25 begin to walk closer to me. He kneels down and holds my jaw. His grasp sharpens the pain. He pushes my head up to look at his face.
You're locked in my domain, and you are mine, and you will do as I say.
I begin to lose more vision and feel like I might pass out. Patient 25 ushers to 1, standing behind me. 1 walks forward and stops beside me. He reaches into his pocket and gets out a long tin case and hands it over to 25. He opens the case and pulls out a syringe. The syringe has tadpole-like creatures swimming around an invisible liquid.
This will speed things up.
Patient 25 flicks the tube as he says those words. The little tadpoles wriggles quicker at every flick onto the glass exterior. 25 begins to shuffle towards me, still at eye level. I try to writhe around, trying to break free of the grasp they have on me, but I cannot. 25 grabs my right arm and pushes the needle into the skin. The tadpole creatures wriggle into my arm.
Welcome to the family, Matt.
My vision carries on, getting blurry, and the security guard that holds me lets me lie down onto the floor. The stark fluorescent light wisping away to the cold hard stereo and the dark corridor that I dreamt of escaping now back in my vision. I feel glad to be back.